Hello and welcome to the 21st Century Work-Life podcast, where we talk about how the world of work and our attitudes to work are changing. You can find out more information about us over at virtualnotdistant.com. Hello, listeners. Welcome to another episode of the 21st Century Work-Life podcast. And it's another guest episode. This is so wonderful because I keep meeting wonderful people online. And I get to talk about what they do while sharing it with listeners. So if we haven't met before, my name is Pilar Orti, and I will let our guest introduce themselves. Hello.
Hi, I'm Linda Redell. Hello, listeners. Thanks for having me, Pilar. I'm excited.
It's really nice to meet you. So, Linda, you are the head of talents and culture at Homelike. Mm-hmm. Well, that's your title there. Of course, you've probably many other things. Would you like to tell us a little bit about Homelike, and then we can hear about what it is you do. So, what does Homelike do?
Homelike is a platform, yeah. So we are a tech company, an online company, and our mission is to be actually the go-to platform for anyone who's seeking an accommodation, an apartment for an extended stay. We want to connect the people who are looking for apartments or houses or co-living spaces with the suppliers who offer their properties. And this is then done by our platform, and the whole renting experience is simplified and improved, because usually this kind of whole experience is very offline driven, mostly done by agencies, very local, and that's kind of the problem that we want to solve as a platform.
And you mentioned, just for listeners, you mentioned also co-living spaces. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a bit more about that, what those are?
I mean, co-living spaces, I think that's also a new way of working or living, right? So I think the whole way of people, how we are living, how we're working, that has changed, right? And also kind of the apartments or the spaces, the accommodation that we are seeking for this. So these are spaces that are kind of there to kind of share working and living with other experts, with people that are sharing spaces. So there's another target group, I would say, probably like younger people maybe, that are sharing those spaces for kind of getting together, working somewhere abroad, remotely. So I think it's a new type of kind of living, combining living and working in one accommodation type.
Yeah, that's a whole new world. I know nothing about that. So I was asking, but for me, it's an extension for me of the co-working spirit. Yeah. Extended into the living, isn't it? And then, so that's what the company offers. Who are you as a business? When was it set up? Just tell us a little bit about its history and its makeup, its people.
So the idea of Homelike was born and also founded in 2014 in Cologne, Germany, by our two founders. They're not in the company anymore. We have new managing directors now. So and the first MVP, like the first online platform, was then launched 2015. So we are about to celebrate our 10 years anniversary. Yeah, hopefully we can have a big party around. And so that's how the idea was born. Yeah, and in the last almost 10 years, the company has grown a lot. It has been going through different phases, I would say. Yeah, from in the beginning, in the first years, from kind of struggling to fighting for fundraisers, getting money in, then larger investment rounds that came with high expectations to grow the company, to invest, to expand, to hire people very quickly. Yeah, and then I think that was a time in the company that was also quite exciting, but it also came with lots of challenges. Yeah, to hire people. It was also back then office based. Yeah, so it has changed because then when the whole COVID crisis came, we as a company also were first to change our work setup, and we send everyone remote. And that was actually a time when we asked ourselves, okay, what's the future of work for us? Yeah, because people enjoyed this a lot, like the whole flexibility that came with it, the trust, kind of the better work-life balance, I would also say, for many people. So we always went in touch with our people, asked them, okay, what do you prefer? Would you like to come back to the office or not? And we could see already that it has changed. Also, the mindset of people changed. That they wanted to keep this flexibility, and that's also probably why we're talking today, about how this all came and what we do afterwards. And I think right now we are in a situation where we are around about 90 people, and we are located in 7 different countries, but also various cities. So not everyone is. We have some office hubs, for example, one in Cologne. That's our biggest one, where also some people are going from time to time to an office. Also in London, we have people who are going to an office, and we also have people who are sitting or working 100% remotely from other countries. But in general, our people, the community of Homelike is very international. Yeah, so within these 90 people, we have more than 20, I think 22 or something nationalities. Average age is also quite young. I think last time I checked was 31.
Okay.
So it also grew a bit. I think before it was below 30. Now we're also growing as a company. We become a bit more mature, and so also other people. But I would still say, compared to, let's say, typical German companies, it's quite a young generation.
Nice. That's starting to give us quite a feel. That's really nice. Thank you. And also, I wanted to ask you about, because so you are, would you say you're a distributed company with some office hubs, or would you call yourself a hybrid company?
I think it could change in the future, but right now I would say it's remote first. Yeah, so we do offer remote work contracts where possible. I mean, we do have establishments in some countries, the one I mentioned, where it's easier for us to hire, but we also work with employer of records, which make it possible to actually hire in other countries where we don't as a company have an establishment or an office. So I'd say the approach definitely is remote, and everything is there to work completely remotely. But I think right now we're also facing situations sometimes where we feel that we get a lot of feedback. Some people feel really isolated, and it's hard to also bring people together on a regular basis. So we also currently look into maybe where can we find, or where can we create office hubs where it makes sense, so that we can also bring people on a more hybrid situation, not necessarily as a mandatory thing, but more as an offer, so that people have the chance to do both, to meet the colleagues in some kind of co-working office environment. From time to time, ideally on a trust base, because right now it's also no one is forced to come into any office, and that we have. It's really, if there are team days or team meetings, then people themselves also want to see each other in person, if possible, and then they are willing to come into the office, and it's really kind of self-organized.
So it's more, I suppose the hubs are more in that way, like your own co-working spaces that people use it even when they want to. And one other question about the structure of your company, because I'm always interested in this, because 90 already starts to be quite a meaty number. You do have quite a lot of managers. What's the structure like?
I wouldn't say we have a lot of managers. I think it's, we do have a leadership team, a bigger leadership team, managers that are leading departments, department heads. We also have team leads, that are leading smaller teams. Really depends. We recently introduced our pillar structure, so where we divide the company into 5 bigger pillars, so that they also have a little bit their own strategy and updates, and this is more, I would say, the departmental structure.
Right. Yeah. So by the pillars, is it like, what are the different pillars? So
for example, one pillar is supply, which is really all about suppliers, like working with our partners here. Then another pillar is, for example, the tech product BI team, which is the technology behind. Then and another one is our B2B team, since we are doing both. We have individual travelers that book with Homelike themselves, but we also work with corporates together for different use cases, and there we also have one, let's say, strategy, which is then the B2B pillar. Then we have an operational pillar, which is then more the customer service functions, for example, or finance. And my team, for example, is more kind of everywhere. We are not belonging to one pillar, but we are here for everyone in the company and for the culture. That's why we are important for everyone, and we are not kind of forced into one of these strategies.
So what do you do? What's your role?
My role, I would say, is also quite diverse. I mean, I'm generally responsible for everything that's related to our people and our culture. Yeah? And I would still say we are a small company. We don't have a big team. We don't have a different kind of internal communications team, PR team, etc. I mean, this is all within my area, within my small team. I have 3 colleagues who are working with me together, and we're doing everything around the employee's life cycle. Yeah, we build our employer brand. We attract people that we hired. We onboard them. We develop them. We retain them. We do surveys. We collect feedback. We offer training. We do a lot of internal communication. We organize events. We organize the offices that we have. We do some legal stuff. So it's really diverse. I can not tell you, like, my day looks different every day. I mean, I'm talking a lot since I have a lot of meetings. I'm trying to be engaged. I'm trying to really be the eyes and ears of the company. That's also what I understand myself, to really understand what's going on. What are the problems? What's happening within the teams, especially in the remote setup that's required, because you're not really listening to coffee chats in a kitchen or so, and you really have to kind of reach out more proactively to grasp, I would say, the vibe of the company and the mood of the teams. But it's really diverse. I'm doing strategic stuff, sitting with the leadership team to work on the strategy and where we want to be, but also very operational stuff. Yeah, just, I don't know, printing paper, putting an envelope and giving it into the post. Yeah, so that could also happen, or repairing the coffee machine in the kitchen because everyone wants to drink coffee. Yeah,
that's great. It reminds me of my founder roles when I used to run a theater company with one friend, and it's like even things, the printing out stuff and everything. Yeah, they're very practical. That sounds, for me, that sounds a lot of fun. That sounds fun, and listeners can't see us, but you're smiling widely. So how long have you been working with the company? When did you join?
I joined 2019. So it's, this year it's almost 5 years. So it's half of the company existence. So I went through all these crises with COVID and people who were in the office before and then moved to home office, etc.
You've done the whole transition. So you told us that you are a remote first organization. So let's get a little bit just of clarity what that means for you and the organization.
Yeah, maybe I can start with kind of the whole transition. Yeah,
yes,
because I said, when we had the COVID crisis, the Corona crisis, the pandemic, then we were all kind of forced back then to move into the home office setup, and it was new for us. And as I said, it was not too difficult because on a technology side, I think we were already well equipped. Yeah, we had Slack, we had Google Drive, so everything was accessible. I think few people needed a laptop because they were working more with kind of fixed computers at a desk in the office, but not many people. So it was quite easy for us to say, now we're running everything remotely, we're doing everything digital. So also the processes were mostly digitalized anyway. So I would say, from this perspective, it was not too hard. It was not too much of a change. What definitely changed was obviously the kind of interaction that was changing. Yeah, before everyone was used to meet each other in an office. Also quite a noisy, I would say, office environment. We had one floor where, I think 30-40 salespeople were calling really literally, and we were like trying to kind of with kind of silent, trying to make it better for them, more efficient to call in these rooms. But I think they were very used to it, and then they were suddenly sitting at home with a headset and calling a client, and then they couldn't kind of complain afterwards about the call with a colleague. So I think like the whole work definitely changed, yeah. And then I think it was really then also step by step, and it was really trial and error back then. Also the two former founders, for them also was quite a challenge, I think, to commit to, do we want to go fully remote now, since people were really requesting it. And so we were trying out things. First, for example, we asked people to come back to the office. First a few teams, then obviously they didn't like it because they also wanted to have the flexibility as others, and we didn't want to create a too tight kind of organization, and we wanted to treat everyone fairly. So we reverted that, and then we kind of encouraged everyone to come on a regular basis to the office, since we also had this big office space, right? And it was quite costly for an organization. And then the question was in the room, okay, like if we really want to go fully remote, then we also need to make cuts in terms of our office space. Yeah, then we really need to commit to it. And yeah, this was, I would say, a process, and it took some time.
And one question, Linda, before that. So at the moment you have 2 HQs and you have people in a few places around the world. At the time that you're talking about, were you only based in Germany?
Yes.
The head of office was there and your employees were based in Germany?
Majority. Yeah, I would say 80%. We had, back then we already had a few in other markets, like we had a co-working space in Spain, since we also were operating there. So we had a couple of, we had a country manager, we had some local key account managers who were already based there, and we had also rented out a co-working. And I think also in France, we had similar, and also UK. Yeah? So we had smaller co-working office hubs, and we had the bigger headquarters in Cologne.
Okay.
And this setup changed. Yeah, I think now also the company operates in much more countries. So we also merged with another more global, B2B company last year, which also meant that now we were suddenly having people in Brazil, really kind of overseas. So this also is a new setup for us, that we have people really being located very far away. But for us, this was all kind of now going hand in hand with the commitment back then, when we said, okay, then let's really go fully remote and use all the advantages that we can have with hiring people everywhere. I mean, mostly everywhere. There's still some restrictions. It's not so easy. Yeah, there are some legal limitations, and you cannot just do wherever you want, let's say, but you have definitely much more flexibility. And we also have to admit that back then, the limitation to Cologne was also a problem sometimes, because the talents we needed were not always willing to relocate to Cologne, especially the tech talents. When you look into to other cities in Germany, many of them were located around Berlin already, or Munich, and Cologne was not super attractive for them to relocate, also families. So now that we could go fully remote, we also had this kind of opportunity to really now hunt for the talents we really want, wherever they are located. And this was great.
Nice. Good. So you're already taking us anywhere, but before I interrupted you, you were at the bit where you had to decide, okay, if we're going to do this remote, we might need less office space. So what are we going to do about that? What are some of the other things that you were considering or that happened?
Yeah, so then we really decided to cut the office space. And so we did, wherever possible. And then we started also new hires. We started to hire them, as I said, with a remote contract. We also were thinking, okay, what has to change? I mean, technology, as I said, was already there. I think we did need to change completely the setup or our working environment, because the tools we were using, they all were fitting actually this remote setup already. But we also realized, okay, communication, engagement, this is something we have to change. How do we bring people together? How do we onboard now when they're not really coming to an office? I mean, back then in the days where we had the office, for example, we took a picture of everyone on the first day, and we had this wall where all the pictures were hanging, and it was a very cozy, and I would say also kind of very small and nice office space. If someone was studying, then this person was introduced to everyone who was sitting there. So how do you do that now when you are in a remote setup? But I think we really found ways how this could easily be, how this can be done. And we've introduced various activities that we are doing, where we bring people together. I mean, if you want, I can also talk a bit about that, what we are doing, so that people really feel engaged.
Let's go back, actually, just because you mentioned the onboarding. And so we've had a picture of how people used to be onboarded. What does that onboarding, I mean, what's the onboarding experience like now? What are you doing so that there's also that feeling of getting to know people?
I mean, for us, the onboarding experience really starts before people are joining. So ideally, we reach out, we are in touch with them on a regular basis, by LinkedIn, by phone, by video calls. Also during the process, when they're interviewed, we already make sure that they're meeting colleagues, at least in a later stage, so that they already see the faces of colleagues they will work together. So they have already an understanding, a picture of how this is done. And then, as I said, before they start, we send them lots of emails with information, with material, with videos on our working principles, some slides, some presentations that they can already have a look at. We also have a lot of insights, videos we post online on our culture blog, where current or past employees talk about their experiences at Homelike. So we try to really give them good insight already before they even start. And then the first day, it depends how many people are starting. We really have a general onboarding day. I mean, it's all via video then, yeah, but we have a kind of little newsletter that is shared with everyone in the company, so that there's a picture then as well of these people, yeah, then digital format, and they answer a couple of questions of who they are, what they're doing at Homelike, yeah, so that we introduce them to everyone, even to the people that maybe they're not meeting on the first day.
So yes, I saw your newsletter. Sometimes it's published on LinkedIn as well, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. Good. So let's go forward then. You were talking about some of the things that you're doing to help people stay connected to each other. So yeah, it'd be interesting to hear. Well, actually, before that, you mentioned that sometimes people are feeling a bit isolated. So is this something that you found out through talking to them? I mean, how do you know what's going on? What are some of the things that you do to know what's going on in the company?
Yeah, as I said, I think for me it's really important to keep the communication line. Yeah, so reaching out via Slack, obviously, but also scheduling meetings more proactively. I mean, me, myself, I'm also working closely with the manager, so I'm also getting input from them, but also my colleague. We've kind of split up ourselves so that every one of us is reaching out also proactively to people where we feel that maybe it's worth to talk to them. If there's something going on, if we receive some hints, let's say, from someone, then we directly reach out, and we really try to be as close as possible. Also, after the onboarding, we have kind of frequent check-ins. So we say after 1 week they started, we have a check-in. We make sure that all their remaining questions are answered. We ask them, how do you feel? Do you feel integrated, right? Just being there, asking all these questions on a regular basis. Then there's another check-in after 3 months with our team and another one after 6 months. So there's really continuous feedback that we seek from the people on an individual basis, where we get a lot of insights and people really openly share a lot of stuff. And there's a lot that we can really take as an improvement. We also send out engagement survey. That's something I mentioned before. I mean, we've done that in the past, also sometimes more than once per year, but this is really more, I would say, on a bigger scale, where we collect feedback and we see, okay, what are the points, what are the pain points of the culture or the company, where do we stand? But I would say that's also just giving us once per year a good insight. So we really try to understand on a regular basis by meeting and talking to people. I mean, also a good occasion, it's unfortunately sometimes a little too late, is if people are leaving or they decide to leave us, then we also have a so-called exit interview. And usually if this happens on a kind of one of the last days before they're gone, people are really openly sharing really what's kind of on their heart, on their mind. So even though it's unfortunate, because obviously in my role I would like to hear that earlier so that we could do something before and to retain those people, but at least it's a good indicator to also understand where are they going? Are they going to a company that is also working 100% remote? Or would they now prefer working hybrid or even office-based? And I was surprised that also, I think, also listened to one of your other podcast episodes before as a preparation. Yes. And I think one thing a guest of you mentioned is that not everyone is made for this, right? Is everyone really made for working remotely? And especially in our setup where we back then hired people office-based, and now they were also, in the end, forced, to join this remote-first approach. I think after some time, after some years, some people also honestly said to themselves, I now go back to a company where I work in an office because I'm missing this in-person exchange. So that's also a learning that we've made, that especially the, let's say, old people that we hired back then, not everyone is 100% feeling comfortable now with this new approach and their different opinions. And it's something that you can adapt to, but some people also don't want this. And I think that's also then a downside that comes with it, that we have to accept.
Yeah. Well, I always wonder about that so many people had a setup before the pandemic and that's what they'd signed up for. And now something's changed. And even when companies haven't gone remote first, still it's all changed. So there's always that. I think that we're still in transition and we're still feeling that. Great. So what are some of the things that you are trying out then?
Yeah, so we've in the beginning, I think we've also tried out a lot. Yeah, we've tried out, we've failed. Some of things were nice, some of things were like no shows. Yeah, no one showed up. So what worked well initially, I think, especially when everyone was really new in this working from home, we had, for example, in the morning we had yoga sessions. So we had a yoga teacher. From Homelike, someone who's doing that on private base, who offered to kind of start the day with yoga classes. So people were really meeting online, doing some spots together, kicking off the day. And we offered coffee breaks, coffee chats. So really kind of asking a few fun questions so that people could get together, meet people that they usually wouldn't meet. I think this also in the beginning was more accepted. So if we still try to organize it here and there, but we also see that it's either always the same people who are joining, unfortunately, or it's also not too much interest. Yeah, so it's a challenge, and I think we also have not found, let's say, the golden clue of what's really what the people want, because we get a lot of feedback that people are missing more like virtual activities in general, and then we do offer activities, and then we are surprised that not all these people that were asking for it are joining these activities. So, I mean, I also can understand that, especially if you do things after work. So, for example, we are doing on a monthly basis, we're doing something after work, some kind of, for example, when we launched a new market in Portugal, we created a Portuguese evening, and we were trying to create Portuguese food and a special quiz around this country, etc. And this was organized in the Cologne office, and the people that could come were also are invited to come in the office, but we also wanted to open it for the people that are remotely, so that they at least can join this quiz, or can just be on the camera and see what's happening. But this is obviously not the same experience, right, as if you're in the office. So the participation of people who join after work, I would say, is definitely not the highest. I mean, before Christmas, for example, we're also doing Christmas special where we did exit games or kind of remote activities, etc. And usually, if everyone is involved, then also participation is higher. But as soon as you have this mixture of people are in the office and people are on the camera, then it's tougher.
The hybrid events are very, very difficult. I mean, hybrid meetings are difficult, but hybrid events, because the feeling of the connection online and the feeling of the connection in person is different. It's so different. So
definitely, yeah.
And when it's an event, it's so much stronger as well. And so the difference is more highlighted.
Yeah, so one learning for us is definitely that we want to organize more occasional kind of in-person meetings with everyone, or in-person activities, events where people really can come together. I mean, some people even did that also on a voluntarily basis. For example, we have a few colleagues that are located on Spanish islands, and they just organize themselves to meet up and work together and spend some time together. So we had kind of different activities in different cities where then people who lived close by just joined as a group, and then they went out for dinner, etc. And that's definitely something we want to pick up on as a company and organize on a frequent basis, that we say at least on a quarterly basis, every team, wherever possible, should, we call it now rebase, that you really meet in person, you create this trust, you hang out together, you do some fun stuff, you brainstorm, you do workshop, and then you have this kind of good feeling of, now I really know my colleagues better, and I have this trust in the end. I think it's also really trust and openness towards each other that you can, I think, really only create when you're meeting in person someone, getting to know someone really, then you can go, and I think then it's also fine, if you're used to this remote setup and you generally like that. I also personally liked it a lot. I like having the flexibility, and I think if you have that, then you could also work kind of very efficiently within your team on a remote base, as long as you make sure that after, I would say, 2-3 months, it's a good timing, then you come back again and you rebase again and you regain this trust. That's kind of my vision of how I would see us in the future, that we really make sure that this is happening. And once per year, we want to bring everyone together and have some awesome company event.
I'm listening to you and thinking that the traditional way of working when everyone was based in the office was to have an annual retreat with the team, because for me, these in-person events are not just about being in person, but about having that time where you're just focusing on each other and focusing on being together, not on doing your tasks. So if we're in person, we definitely need this at least once a year. But when we're away from each other, we need this more often. Yeah. It's just that realization that what we need is different either in how it looks or when, or the cadence of certain activities. Yeah. And I'm also wondering, Linda, here, listening to you, whether, in a way also supporting teams in this way is sometimes looking at it as a facilitator to make sure people have what they need. So you're mentioning like these teams that started to get together and it was a little bit more spontaneous, or and looking out for those times. And you're also making me think that way of supporting also sometimes is about letting people, enabling, because people don't always know that they can do these things. So, maybe they're waiting for you to. Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a mixture. Yeah, you definitely need to create the framework so that people feel comfortable acting. Yeah, and in terms of I have the budget. Yeah, I know that I can now go ahead and book a flight. It's okay. It's allowed. Yes. But I also think, and that's what we realized, it's actually much better if people are organizing it themselves. Yeah, because if it's something that my team would say, like now from above, we are always the ones moderating, organizing certain activities, and it feels a bit as if it's kind of forced, from our side. And that's why we always try to find, also party committees or whatever, people that want to do this. And luckily we have enough people who are really willing to kind of invest time and organize fun events. And then it's usually also much more successful because it comes from the organization itself and it's nothing that we force them to do.
So this is the way in which you're organizing for people to connect more in the more personal way, if you will. I mean, it's related around work. What are some of the ways in which people are learning in the organization? How are people growing? And actually, what does growth and development mean for you as well? Because that's another huge thing.
Yeah, that's a huge topic. Yeah, I think growth it's a huge topic. Yeah, and we also always say we want to have a growth mindset in the company. But what does it mean? Yeah, I think it's a very broad term. It's also a buzzword. I mean, generally, yes, we are also as a company we're growing. Yeah, I think when we created our new working principles, that was also a project that I was leading back then. Because the company has changed so much. Yeah, the two founders left the company. Then we went from office to remote. We felt the need to have new values. Yeah, the old ones didn't really feel lived anymore. There was not a high identification with them. So that's why and how we came up with our new working principles that should really serve as a guidance for everyone of how what's our moral compass, let's say, of behaving. Yeah, not necessarily putting a value, a word, but really a working principle. What's our guidance? And one of the things for us that's really important is we call that really the continuous learning. Yeah, that we want to create an environment where people are encouraged to try out and fail. Yeah, and we also try out a lot on our website. We test every day. I don't know how many A/B tests we're doing. We're trying out lots of new things, and we want to do the same with the people. Yeah, people who should have the chance to not be limited by their job role. Yeah, they should actually feel comfortable to seek more project topics. And really try out new things, new approaches. Not be afraid, but then learn from it. Right? I mean, that's our general mindset, and that's really something that we also assess whenever we hire new people. That we want these people having this kind of mindset, because I think in terms of skills, and competencies, that's a lot you can learn. Yeah, the technical parts. Especially nowadays, you find so many tutorials online, right? It's not that you need to always have this sophisticated L&D tool, but you find there are so many resources, podcasts. It's also very diverse. Everyone has a different learning strategy. So we don't force our people this, one streamed L&D program, but it's really also very self-driven learning, I would say. Nevertheless, we do offer some learning opportunities on a company-wide level. One is our Homelike Academy. Yeah, that's really something that we also built internally because we believe that we have a lot of experts, and we also wanted to give them the room and the platform to be seen, to share their knowledge, because that's usually also much more hands-on than if you go kind of seek for an external trainer or company that doesn't really maybe know what are your real business problems. So that's where we wanted to start in terms of our first training program. And now we really have a long list of trainings that we really provide on a regular basis. So we really try to offer something on a monthly level at least. And this ranges from leadership trainings, leadership basic workshops that are also open for everyone, not only to the ones that are leading teams, to exit trainings, or we now want to do something around AI. We had something that was data analysis specific, where we had someone from our BI team, sharing knowledge and doing some kind of training sessions. We do have feedback, how to give proper feedback, constructive feedback, how to receive feedback, how to write effectively in a very fast-paced environment. So it's really diverse schedule of academy sessions that last around, I would say, 1 to 3 hours, also not too long, so that people also can take the time to integrate them in their daily schedules and that they're not out for a week or so. And this is really something that's also, empowered from above. We even have one of our managing directors is one of the trainers. So it's really, you can see, right, that there is the support from everywhere that people should also take this time. But it also should still be self-driven. It's not something we'd say this is a mandatory training, and it should really come from themselves that they want to train.
Yeah. And I sorry, I want to interrupt before we move on, because I think the most important thing, and this is something I'm not hearing a lot, and I think many organizations should listen to this, is the fact that you're bringing people, internal people, to deliver the sessions, to share their knowledge, because that is a great way of giving visibility to everyone and of connecting everyone. That is really, really important. And I think in a remote, in what is mainly a remote company, it's another opportunity. I think that's really, kudos to that, because that's really important.
And it's really nice. And every year we're kind of getting more people, like more trainers on board that are willing to do that, to share their knowledge. And as you said, they're also enjoying it. They're also becoming more confident, talking to a group, presenting skills. So I think it has so many benefits for everyone. And it's usually also kind of more trustful environment, because you maybe know the person before. You can bring up very specific work examples, challenges you're facing. So it's really hands-on. It's really good. The feedback we also get from these trainings, it's really nice. I mean, we do also offer access to external tools like Udemy, right? If you know this, so that people, if they want to, do some self-learning on these tools, and that's also something we do. We also have a weekly format that's called our Demo Day, where we kind of exchange on an all-hands format on a remote setup, and this is also changing from time to time. So right now it's a mixture of business updates where we share very transparently the like financial status and kind of updates on revenue numbers, etc. But we also give then teams or departments a chance to share some project insights. We try to make it interactive with Slido so that people can ask questions in between, or we do little surveys in between so that people really feel that it's not just someone presenting, but they're part of this. Then we also sometimes have team updates in a fun way where every team is asked to create one slide with Giphies also, where they, for example, this week it's carnival season here in Cologne. It's starting tomorrow. And so we said tomorrow we have to kind of keep this tradition, and we will have a fun session where everyone can kind of really creatively design a slide on kind of sharing their fun moments. For example, I don't know, sharing fun stories from interviews they had or calls with clients. Usually there's a lot that you wouldn't kind of know or listen to each other, because it's something that would maybe be shared in an office, but not in this format. So we really give the platform. And especially our sales teams, they have a lot of funny stories to share around, I don't know, crazy people bringing their pets or asking really funny questions in these calls. So, and this is something we will use tomorrow, and that's usually a lot of fun and also gives a little kind of this informal touch that sometimes feels, that I feel sometimes is missing in this remote environment, because it's much more professional. It's a lot of times it's formal. You have these formal meetings, but you are missing this informal exchange. That's why we also on a weekly basis really have this all hands demo day format, where we then also encourage people to share their learnings. We also sometimes say, now it's time to share your fuck ups, and then people are encouraged to share all of their failures, or what didn't go well and what they learned from it, and then they are they can really be creative.
Great. So what I'm hearing is that you're very deliberately creating a culture where all of this is okay. You're very deliberately creating a culture of experimentation. You're supporting it. You're saying we want you to grow. And one of the ways, we don't just tell you, but we give you this space to share your learning and grow while you're sharing your learning, which is amazing. So it sounds great. However, you're a very busy person and time flies when you're having fun. So just for the last couple of minutes, what are you excited about for the future then? This is a very off-the-cuff question. What are you looking forward to, either in the short term or the long term?
I mean, I said in the beginning, towards the end of this year, we will celebrate 10 years Homelike. So I'm really looking forward to hopefully a really awesome, nice party event where everyone can come together on a company-wide retreat. So that's something I would say on a more short notice I'm looking forward to. And I'm also excited about the future of this work concept. Yeah, I still feel that it's not there 100% perfect. I don't know if it will ever be. Lots of companies are asking people now back to come into the office. We are also questioning ourselves. We are challenging ourselves every day. Is it what we are doing? Is it the right strategy? Yeah, is it still the right track? Sometimes things are changing, so I'm really excited about how all of this will shape in the future. I'm really convinced that remote work will and has to kind of stick somehow. I don't think it's a future to ask people to come back 100% in the office, and it's luckily at Homelike also we are all convinced that remote is the future. The question is more, is it 100%, or where can we create an environment, community spaces where people are willing to go to really fulfill this in-person meeting needs that they have. And I'm really looking forward to this, and hopefully we can create more of these spaces in other countries. And then, I'm also really looking forward to travel there. So we just recently opened, we will hopefully open something in Greece zone in Athens. So on a personal note, that's also something there where I would like to go.
Yeah, nice. Very good. And Linda, if listeners want to connect with you, what's the best place? LinkedIn?
Yes, LinkedIn for sure. Yeah,
Great.
You can find me on LinkedIn.
And they can check out the website for the company and find out both services and the company. Is it homelike.com or is it?
It's thehomelike.com.
Well, thank you so much, Linda. I had a blast. So thank you for stopping by.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really interesting. And I will definitely further follow your podcast and listen to your interesting insights and further guest speakers.
A big thank you to Ross Winter for polishing the audio of this episode. And thank you, listeners, for choosing to listen to the 21st Century Work-Life podcast. Remember to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app, and you can check out the full show notes over at virtualnotdistant.com/podcasts. Talking of podcasts, we have another show you can listen to, Management Cafe, which you should also be able to find on all podcast apps. I have been Pilar Orti. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, enjoy.